Fantastic. We are live right now. This is Dom Famularo as I come to you on the Mapex Facebook page. And I've had the chance each week on Monday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to pull someone out of the forest, these great drummers that are incredibly here, to sit them down and have some time with them. Today, it's Waldo Madera. Waldo, thank you so much for joining me.
Dom, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure. And well, we're old friends, but it's always such a pleasure and an honor to be in anything that's involving you, my friend. So thanks for inviting me, and thanks to Mapex as well.
Thank you so much. You know, it's kind of fun because I've had the chance of hearing you play live, and you are such a great player, and you have such a wide variety of feels that you can play. No matter what you do, you fit in like a chameleon. You change your colors and you fit in perfectly well, whether it's with Ricky Martin or Juanes, which we'll get into all later on. It really is amazing. So I have to ask you first, where did it begin for you? What got you involved with drumming, and how did music enter your life?
Well, it started at a very young age. I was already like inclined and into music actually before I started talking. Here's a funny story. I would be sitting like in the little car seat in the back, and as they played music, I would I couldn't talk yet. I was a little baby. I was maybe a few months, but my brother, God rest his soul, that he would be riding back there, and he would love music. So he had a certain understanding. He wasn't a musician, but he had a certain understanding of music. He would notice that when the radio was on, I would hit a cymbal. I would do a cymbal sound, like every time they hit the one going into the verse or going into the chorus, or like whenever after a fill, I would hit like just do that cymbal. And at the beginning, he thought, oh, it's a little baby making sounds, and so he figured out there was a pattern. And I was literally doing this pattern that I would be hitting these cymbal sounds with my mouth. I couldn't talk, but I would hit them always on the beat number one, changing from one section to the other. So, I guess, I was just like born with some kind of connection with music. My mother also, she wasn't a musician, a professional musician, but she studied in a private Catholic school with nuns and all stuff. So she learned how to play the piano and the accordion. She sang beautiful. She really had an amazing ear, actually. So I think I got the music from her. And then, I didn't really get into drumming until I was about 13 years old. A little bit before that, I had, like grabbed acoustic guitars. We had acoustic guitar laying around the house. And I would love listening to music. If I heard like certain passages, orchestral passages, or certain harmonies, my mom would always be playing music. Sometimes I would just start crying, and I didn't know why I was crying, but it was just because I could hear certain harmonies that somehow they would touch me, in the deepest part of the soul. So that's how it all started. But the drumming part started when I was 13. My sister Ingrid convinced my parents to get me like a drum set. She said, this kid, get him doing something, some kind of hobby or something. So he's not like always like, hanging out doing, with his friends doing, nothing basically. So, and it was great. It was great she did that because they got me my first drum set, and right there and then that same day, I remember when I got it, I set it up left-handed because I had seen Phil Collins. I was like, oh, this is how this thing should be done, probably. So I set it up left-handed, and I kept it left-handed for a while, actually. And that same day, I was playing "In the Air Tonight." Everybody was at Phil. So and that's that. That's where it all started for real. Soon after that, maybe a couple of years into that, I was 15. I had started playing with some musicians that had moved back to Dominican Republic from Brazil and from Spain, and another one of them had moved back from New York. A couple of them had moved back from New York, and they had moved back to DR, and they wanted a drummer to do this project based on Dominican folk music mixing it with Brazilian rhythms and other parts. Back then, the term world music didn't exist. That's how
Yeah,
old I am, Dom.
yeah,
So, so we were just mixing styles, and and it wasn't called world music. Then after that, we learned, oh, okay, so world music. But that's how that adventure started. And I was fortunate enough. I was the little young, the young kid, 15 years old. All these guys were amazing musicians. They had studied, in different parts of the world, and that was my school, my first school, my real first school was playing with them. They taught me how to listen to all these percussion instruments and how to try to get them incorporated into the drum set,
yeah.
rhythmically, and that brought me like my first approach to independence too. So
So
that's
was
where a
this?
lot started. I'm sorry for a long explanation, but
No, this is very interesting. So that was, I think it was it Maguey was the band, the Dominican Republic and Brazilian band.
correct, correct.
So
That's him.
here you are now. So you're mixing, and people really have to understand Dominican Republican, rhythms, and then mixing that with Brazilian rhythms. This was pretty deep stuff for a young kid that was just basically starting out in the process. So you had some incredible guidance from some older musicians.
Oh, definitely. And I'm telling you, like Tadeo De Marco, Tony Vicioso, Ilka, Mateo, all these guys, they were, like I said, they were amazing musicians already. They were probably, I don't know, maybe, 10 years older than me. They had already studied, they had, accomplished a whole lot of stuff. So it was like having a huge encyclopedia thrown in my face, but live. I had these guys, we would get together. I would actually, I would actually have to hand my drums to someone, like they you have to take my drums hidden from the home to go and rehearse, because of course I was young and my parents, they weren't like really into me being a professional musician back then. So I would sometimes have to sneak out with my drums to go and rehearse. But of course, at that age, you know how we are. I was loving every minute of it, and just absorbing everything these guys were bringing into the plate, which was a lot of information because they had already lived, like I said, in the States, in Europe, and they were from other parts, from Brazil. So they were just dishing me all this information, bam, 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 was just trying to get as much of it as possible at once. And that was, probably one of the best parts of my education, I would say, still to today. Of course, Manhattan School of Music is an amazing institution, and I had, the fortune of having amazing teachers. But I think at that age, being 15 and being in contact with all this knowledge and all this culture that was brought to me, was just, you know, amazing. Because I was hearing, what we all hear, Led Zeppelin, Boston, and I used to love pop and rock music. And I was enjoying that a lot. And then these guys came and they turned my world around.
So what was it like? So when were you living in New York? At what age?
Um, I moved to New York actually to study Manhattan School of Music when I was 17. Yeah, when I was 17, or just about to be 18, and that was, let me see, 87. I believe it was 87.
So at that time,
And I moved there because finally, I'm hearing you.
so was that a time when John Riley was there teaching?
Yes, the amazing, amazing John Riley. Man, I couldn't land in better hands. There were other amazing teachers at that time in Manhattan School of Music, but I was very fortunate and blessed because it was a blessing from God to land in His hands. Because we all know John Riley, and he he's such an amazing everything. He's an amazing human being, an amazing teacher, an amazing drummer. I think I've never met anybody that has such a vast understanding of every single little detail about drumming, or at least I've never been close to anybody that knows so much as John. So I praise him, and I thank him every day because that was amazing to have him just, you know, open my eyes, and it was really funny because when I arrived, I was like so green. You know what I mean, I was coming from an island, growing up in an island, where we didn't have, there was no internet, there was none of that stuff, so we didn't have much information back then. There wasn't a lot of information, and being able to have this amazing monster of knowledge just take me in and say, dude, like, this is what this is called. This is how you do this. Oh, you know how to do this. You know what that's called? I'm like, I have no idea. Well, that's called that. Like, and it was amazing. And he opened my eyes also to, because, I already knew kind of like how to play straight ahead, because back in the island, we grow up, always listening to all the music that's not from the island. So, so we listen to jazz and all that stuff. But it's, it's not the same when you have a guy that knows so much come up to you and start talking to you about how to bounce, and how to swing in so many different ways, because he knows how Philly Joe Jones did it. He knows how Max Roach used to do it. He knows how Peter Erskine does it. He knows like all the eras and all these drummers, and he would explain to you, and you would hear it. It was absolutely transparent. And he said, no, because this is how Philly Joe Jones would have done it. And you close your eyes and you're hearing Philly. You know what I mean? And then you close your eyes and you hear Max Roach. You close your eyes and you hear Jack DeYonet. And he just understands it in such a way that it's scary.
I had met John back in the early 70s. We were both studying with Joe Morello at the time. And it was amazing to see John as an incredible student and educator. And I have had the chance of performing with him on stage at many festivals. And he really is a phenomenal, brilliant mind in the art of drumming and music. And his two books, The Art of Bop Drumming and Beyond Bop Drumming, are standards to teach, to understand all the different aspects of how to, again, understand all these different styles, but then find your own style. And that's something which you have done so well, Waldo. You found kind of your own sound and your own thing. So then you went on from school, you went on to play with different musicians, and you end up doing like a ton of different festivals too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was, fortunate. I like I always say, I have to thank God, so much, Don, because he's been my booking agent, he's been my manager, he's been, everything. I've been fortunate enough that, especially back in those days, being a young musician, where the world was a lot bigger than now, right? Because now, we connect in so many ways. It's a lot easier. Yeah. And to be able to, to play all these, amazing jazz festivals, and to be able to play with and interact with all these amazing musicians, was incredible for me. And it's been a lot of schooling, just to, meeting Paquito Rivera, playing with him, and all these, being able to play with, with Branford Marsalis, with all these musicians. It's been so much schooling. It's, I have nothing but thanks. I could only thank God and them.
Well, I want to find out how you got to all these players, because I mean, aside from playing the Montreal Jazz Festival in Canada, then doing several festivals in the Dominican Republic, then doing several festivals in Europe. You mentioned Paquito. Then there's also Rafael Cruz and Dave Valentine. So you really have, how the hell did all of this come about?
Well, I don't know. Before I used to think it was being in the right place at the right time. And then, that's why I came to the conclusion it has to be God, because things have happened to me in such an amazing and an unbelievable way that that I can't sometimes even explain, Like Rafael Cruz, for example, which is an amazing musician, amazing percussion player. He was the one who hooked me up to play with Paquito. And that story was really funny. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So I'm in New York, and I get a summer job at a music store called Alex Music. It doesn't exist anymore. And Alex Music is I'm there working, and who do I find there? So I meet this guy, Rafael Cruz, which back then I was young, so I didn't really know much about him, right? Then afterwards I saw him, oh, this guy recorded with the Brecker Brothers and recorded with Guitar and recorded with McCoy Tyner. But I didn't know that at the time, So and we developed a friendship. Like, he's Dominican, and he's like, oh, yeah, he digged me. For some reason, he kind of like, he digged me. So, we develop a relationship, and one day he's like, I'm telling him, oh, well, I'm living at my sister's, but I need to move. I want to see if I could find something a little bit closer to New York, that I could have my own place. And he's like, man, you know what? I'm about to move out of my apartment. Because, me and my girlfriend, we want to get some more space. We want to move together to a bigger place. Why don't you, check it out? You could stay with that apartment. It's right off, it's in Weehawken. So you're only one exit away from the Lincoln Tunnel. Yeah. It'll be great for you to go to Manhattan School of Music. You can take the bus and then take the train. I'm like, hey, sounds good. The rent is cheap because the owner, all she wants is someone to pay her mortgage. She doesn't want any money for her. She lives in England, and she wants someone to pay her mortgage. That's all. And she's a really good friend of mine. Like, and the apartment is furnished, and it has a piano. It has an upright piano in the living room. I'm like, dude, you're kidding me? All this? And he said, and you have a view from Manhattan. I'm like, nah, this is too much. So I go to see the apartment. Of course, I fell in love with it. I moved in right away, and I'm living there. And Rafael Cruz had moved from there to half a block down on the corner to a house. So he was like so sweet to me because he knew I was like alone in New York. And I mean, my sisters lived there, but they lived like out of town, Rutherford, New Jersey, stuff like that. So he's like, this kid is alone in New York, and he would call me up, dude, I made some food, come over, I cooked, let's have some food. So I would go to his place, and Manolo Badrena would be there, and and all these guys would be at his home having sancocho and stuff like that, So one day, he said, oh, by the way, so he hooked me up, and I started playing with him, with his band, right? Which was a lot of schooling too, because I mean, he knows, he has so much knowledge, and he's an amazing percussion player. And so I've been playing with him for a while, and one day he calls me up and says, dude, do you want to play with Paquito Rivera? I'm like, of course, man. I mean, like, are we alive or what? And he says, well, I hooked you up, and he needs a drummer, and Mark Walker was living in Chicago, and Mark was working a lot, of course, because it's Mark Walker. So Mark, sometimes he couldn't do some of the gigs, and Paquito needed someone that could kind of cover for Mark in those times he couldn't come into town, because expenses and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, great, that's wonderful, man. Of course, I was nervous. I was dying, and so I'm waiting for the rehearsal. Like, it's going to be only one rehearsal, and we're going to play the next day. So he tells me this, like, I believe this was like he called me like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and the rehearsal was like Thursday, and the gig was Friday at some theater. And I'm like, dude, I had never heard back from him. I'm like, man, so I call him up, dude, what's up? I mean, like, the gig is the day after tomorrow. He's like, chill, don't worry, man. But when is the rehearsal? When are we rehearsing for this thing? Don't worry about it, man. I'm nervous, man. No, you're good. Don't worry. So, like, we'll rehearse tomorrow for sure. I'll let you know. And it's like maybe like about 4 p.m. On Thursday. I'm like, oh, these stories, what's gonna go on? And suddenly I get a call, and he tells me, okay, man, we're gonna rehearse. It was like maybe like about 4:30. We're gonna rehearse at 5. I'm like, dude, where is this? Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, man. And I was like, don't worry, man, chill. I'm like, no, Dad, I want to be late. You kidding me? It's Paquito Rivera, man. He's like, don't worry. He has drums there. All you have to do is like, go downstairs, cross the street, and ring the bell. I'm like, I thought he was joking. So I literally go out of my building, cross the street, like right in front of my door, and I ring the bell. I'm like, what is this? Kind of joke or something? Paquito Rivera comes out. Turns out he lived right across the street.
This is in Weehawken? Right? This was in Weehawken.
Oh, are you hearing me there?
It broke out a little.
I don't know if I lost you.
Was this?
Hello?
Was this in Weehawken?
Can you see me, Don?
No, I kind of lost you. Hello, 1, 2. I can see you and hear you. 1, 2. Let's see what we have here. No, I can't hear you now. Hello. Well, if anybody can still hear me while Waldo is getting on, we've got some phenomenal people that have joined us. Daniel Lemus, he says hi from Mexico. Let's look at this here. Daniel Lemus, hi from Mexico. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see if we can bring Waldo back. We've got Adiel Borgoa. Hello. Alex Gonzalez. Shout out from Miami, Florida. Fantastic. We have got, let's see this. Boris Kinlaw Jr. Hello from Philly. I love Philly. The people are great. The music there is fantastic. And what happens, the musicians that hang out there are the best. Oh, man, bring it on, man. The Roots. Doesn't get any deeper than the Roots from Philly. Let's see. Let's go to Boris. Says, yes, sir. Praise God for everything. There it is. Frederica Belto. 2 of the nicest drummers I had the pleasure to meet. Fantastic, guys. Thank you, Federico. Thanks for joining us. We've got Nelson. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if I can bring Waldo back in. Are we back in, Waldo?
Hello.
1, 2.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
1, 2. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's a little bit delayed,
good.
but I can hear you.
Sorry about that.
No
okay,
worries.
Yeah, it's a little bit delayed. I like I said, it okay.
All right, how's that? 1, 2, 1, 2. No, we're still losing them. Hello.
All righty. So yeah, we have a little bit of delay, but at least I could hear you. I hope you guys can hear me.
We can hear you for sure. It's broken up a little bit. I'm not sure what that is. So let's go back to the. If you can still hear me. So Paquito lived in Weehawken.
I don't know. I can't hear you, Dom. I don't know if you hear me, but for some reason I can't hear you. This is crazy.
Boy, let's try logging out, Waldo, and come back in again. One, two. Well, while he's there, let's see if we have Nelson Hernandez. Waldo is an amazing drummer. Your career inspires us all. That's fantastic. Jorge Flynn joining us. Thanks so much.
I can't hear you. I don't know if you hear me. For some reason I can't hear you.
I can hear you. I think everybody can still hear me. If anybody can send a message, if you can still hear me on the chat, let's see what happens. We've got drummers coming from all over. Here's a drummer from Kansas.
I don't know why I can't hear you. Yeah.
Let's see. Here's George. Hello from Pakistan. Thank you, George. Amanat, thanks so much for joining us. That's fantastic. Let's see what we have here. I'm not exactly sure what the challenge will be here with technical difficulties. Let's see if we can get Waldo back here. I believe. Yes. So Frederico says he can hear me.
Oh my God.
Frederico, can you hear Waldo?
I'm gonna try to disconnect myself again and come back. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I think everybody can hear me. So can you guys hear Waldo? How's that question? Can any of you hear Waldo as he's logging on? He's just logged out right now. Can you hear Waldo as we are live on the Mapex Facebook page? This is live action. I love this. So that what we have here is Waldo Madera, who's a phenomenal, phenomenal drummer, who I've had the chance of hearing several times. Let's see if we can bring him back into the stream here. 1 2 1 2.
Like
1 2 1 2. Waldo, they say if on the comments they say you're cutting in and out.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me now. Now I can hear you, which is good.
Okay, it's a bit delayed, and I'm hardwired, so I've got a real strong connection. So let's see if we can pull this off. So my question was, Paquito lived across the street in Weehawken. Is that where you were?
Correct.
What's interesting is that my middle son, Jonathan, is a lighting director for CNBC, and he lives in Weehawken. And Weehawken is where Alexander Hamilton was killed, in Weehawken, and that's how they wrote the Broadway show Hamilton about his life when he was killed in Weehawken. So it sounds like everything was happening in Weehawken.
You could say that again. I mean, you can imagine I was, suddenly I was living on the same street, same block as Paquito Rivera and Rafael Cruz. You know what I mean? How does that come up, like from moving from some little island in the Caribbean and happening to land right there? That's why I say, to me, it's, it's all comes from upstairs, man. You know what I mean? That's all I can say.
How did that rehearsal go, and how did that gig go with Paquito?
That was amazing. Of course, I was nervous as heck. So I go to rehearsal, and Paquito is a fast mover, so he threw this gigantic book of songs, boom, at me. I was like, okay, grab that, and he would just yell out such and such. I'd be digging through stacks of paper. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what the rehearsal was like. It was like we zoomed to that thing, to that whole set, like that. Just like, bam. Okay, next. Okay, next. Oh, by the way, this part I don't like. Don't play it like that. Play it like this. Oh no. See, if you're gonna do the I'll never forget. There was this one song we had to play a danzón and a danzonete, and so he told me, okay, so it's a danzonete, play. That's like, so I start playing that song. He's like, no, not like that, man. I want it like this. So he grabbed my sticks and just explained to me right there. You got it? I'm like, yes, sir, I got it. Okay. And but it was just like that. It was very fast. And we were probably done rehearsing in less than 2 hours. And the gig, thank God, came out really, really nice.
Waldo, your screen.
I can't see you. I don't know if you see me. Hopefully, I don't know if this thing went wrong again.
I do not see you, and I believe everyone can see me. So it seems like your camera is black. Can you change that? Boy, we've got a few serious challenges here. Meanwhile, I'm going to talk to Mike Skinner. Hi, Dom, from South Wales. I have been to South Wales. I love it there. That is fantastic. Let's see what we have here. Okay, let's see if we can see what Bob Terry says. Dom, we can hear you, but your audio is faint. Waldo was cutting in and out and skipping. It's probably his connection. So let's see if we can have. Can you guys hear me now? It's only me on the screen. Let's see. 1, 2. Can you guys hear just me on here? If you guys can chat me and let me know if this is live happening now on the Facebook page for Mapex. If you can let me know if you can hear me completely. I'm on here actually by myself. Waldo signed out. He's going to try and sign back in. Can anybody hear me? Mike Skinner says he saw me in a clinic in Cardiff. Very inspirational. Thank you so much, Mike. I remember Cardiff very, very well. I love seeing the castle and taking a tour of that. The people were great there. It was an incredible time. And I remember how great the beer was in Cardiff. Really, really very, very good. Thanks so much, Mike. Let's see if we have the workings of, see if we can bring Waldo back in. Let's see what we have here. No, Waldo, it's still, let me text him. Still a black screen. Waldo, 1, 2, testing 1, 2. It's still a black screen if you can hear me. I love this. You know, what's great about this is we'll have to at some point figure all this out and have Waldo back again at a different time when we can get a much stronger connection. And remember, the amount of people that are using the internet right now and what's going on is absolutely incredible. People that are at home, a lot of the children on school. Actually, Waldo has 3 children, and they're also, you know, right now online taking school stuff. So who knows how that affects everyone's connection and what they're doing. Here's one here from Federico Beltro. Dom, Argentina loves you. Oh my gosh. I love Argentina. My mother's mother was born in Buenos Aires. So I go back and just enjoy the incredible brilliance of the great people of Argentina. Thank you so much, Federico. Wow. When am I coming back to Cardiff? Well, I'll tell you something. We're not going anywhere right now, but if there's any chance that I can end up doing some master classes with any teachers there in Cardiff and inviting different people to join us in that way, we can do a Zoom class for sure. And when traveling gets back into action, I would love to be able to travel back and enjoy Cardiff and meet all the people and hang out for a few days and maybe even do some master classes there in person when the world gets back to being able to have a little bit of normalcy and travel again to come back in for sure. Let's see if I can bring Waldo back in. Let's try him again. Waldo, 1, 2. Waldo, your screen is still black. Still black. Let's see what we have here. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Waldo here. Mike Skinner was saying, Dan Schindler, who does Drum Talk TV. Dan Schindler, who is phenomenal with Drum Talk TV. It's so great to experience his shows that he does and the interviews that Dan does. And I've had the chance of being involved with Dan on several different projects. A great, great guy. And Dan also has great classes he teaches in social media. So if anybody knows, Dan's information to track him down, he's got some great classes that he does. So it's just really, really incredible. We're here on the Mapex page. We get a chance to talk about Mapex drums. I've got behind me 2 Mapex drum sets. I've got this kit on this side here is a Mapex Saturn 4. And this is the set that I use for my students. They come on here, they wail away on this kit. They love the sound of the Saturn 4. And this set now is the Saturn 5 that I've had, for about a year or so in here. And the set just sounds fantastic. I do many recordings too from this kit. I've got my Sabian cymbals on there. I've got my Remo heads and I use my Vader sticks. And that's a combination that works well for me on my Mapex drums. And it's just so great to have the shells the way they are and just the design of how they make the newer drums. And they have now the new Mapex Evolution Kit, which is a birch kit, which is absolutely incredible. The birch drums are fantastic. Let's see if we can bring it. Check this out. This is Arthur from Ufa, Russia. Arthur is a great, great drummer who takes some lessons with me on Thursdays. My gosh, just from Russia, we were able to connect students from the Ukraine and Russia. And I've got a wonderful student that joins us from Cyprus once a week and join in. And it's just so great to be able to share all this information and go through all the different techniques and the different books that we're working on. We'll work out of stick control, we'll work out of accents and rebounds, and even out of my book, It's Your Move. And all of this stuff is really just so great to see everyone learning material that normally before the internet, you had to travel there. Well, we've got some great advantages now by using Zoom and Skype and all these different online lessons. I started working on online teaching many, many, many years ago. And it was really just kind of great to be able to do this for 25 years ago. I've been teaching online. So when the challenge happened with COVID and this whole thing changed, it really became a challenge because everyone was saying, my gosh, now I got to adapt myself to get cameras and audio. I already had that happening here. So I was able to just switch everybody over and continue teaching. And as you can see, I've got a monitor behind me. I've got the Mapex logo up there. So when I sit on the drum set, I'm able to turn that monitor and watch it so I can see my students on that monitor while I'm from the drum set. And I've got a second monitor in front of me over here that I've got on a full screen. So when I'm on my practice pad, I can work with my students there. And I just switch my camera angles and it works out really, really well. So it's really, really kind of great. We have Frank Perry here. Frank is a phenomenal drummer. And Frank has got the drum set up in an ambidextrous way where he can play right-handed lead or left-handed lead. It's like two drum sets completely split the way it is. It's absolutely incredible. And just to have that ability of being able to have that reach of righty or lefty playing, Frank does that so well. Frank's also a Mapex user, and he's waiting for the Saturn Evolutions to come out also. And we have it coming out real soon. They're going to send me a Saturn Evolution set to have in my studio soon. So at some point when I get that here, I'll do some events and we'll do some classes for Mapex, maybe even on the Mapex Facebook page here. And I'll play for you and kind of go through the drum kit for you. But this is fantastic to have this reach and to have this incredible ability of being able to have great, great drums by a great company. Really kind of helps us to give us a real, great product that allows us to enjoy ourselves more. And all the drums sound great. Listen, it blows me away, especially the new design lab that Russ Miller was a part of designing. That's a whole nother level of intensity of sound quality where Russ took each drum, the 10, 12, 14, 16, each drum, and came up with the different size and the different shell design for each drum to bring the most out of that size. So each tom is a different makeup because of what they have for the vibration and the resonance of each drum. And then he came up with a different leg design where the leg design kind of comes out and kind of angles down from each leg on the floor toms. And that added a whole nother level of vibration to the drum to even allow the drum to even sing longer. So it's got more duration and tone. Again, out of the mind of Russ Miller. Russ is a brilliant drummer who I had here as a guest for a while there, for sure. Please send again the link. Let me see if I can send. I'm going to send Waldo the link again. Let's see if I can get this happening here. Check this out now. Now, while you're all here, you're watching the process happen in action. Waldo Madera, send the link here again. There it is. Bring that on. Let's go back to here and go back to you all here. Let's see if Waldo can join us again. We'll see if we can get him back on. And listen, this is kind of what happens. We'll absolutely schedule Waldo at a different time to bring him back again so we can have more of a uninterrupted conversation with him. But we'll give him one more try. We'll see if he can log in. If he can't log on, we will reschedule him for a different day. Let me see over here. I've got Mike Skinner. I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous. Nice one. All right. I don't think you have to go that far, Mike. There are techniques that you can learn, but that's hysterical. Let's go to Fulvio Borelli. Good evening, Dom. Fulvio, where are you from? And are you from? I have a feeling you might be from Italy. Let's try that. Let's see where you're from. Again, Arthur, who's got a wonderful young child. I believe his son's name is Daniel, who I met just the other day. And his son Daniel is also playing drums and getting involved with drumming. And this is kind of the joy that we have in sharing it with our family. I got all my three boys involved with drumming when they were younger, and it was just so great to see them. And they're all actually pretty good drummers, which is kind of funny about the process. Thanks, guys, for joining us here. Let's see if we can try and bring back Waldo in here. If we cannot bring back Waldo, guys, don't worry about it. I should say guys and girls. We'll reschedule Waldo for sure. But we've got people from Pakistan and Mexico and Russia, the U.S., some people from Miami area. So thanks for joining us in the process here. We're going to give from Canada, Chris, check this out here. Let's go to Chris Spagnulio. Beautiful drummers, Chow Dom from Canada. Woo! What part of Canada, Chris? Fantastic. We've got Francis Pena. Cheers from DR, Dominican Republic. Fantastic. That is the home country of Waldo. That's fantastic. Let's go to here. Matt Sittler. Thank you, Matt. Dom, I've been watching you since I was a teenager. Well, that lets you know how long I've been doing this, Matt, for sure. I've been around the world several times every year. So let's see if we can bring Waldo back on and get this back into action. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if we can bring Waldo back in and see if this works. Waldo, 1, 2, do we have this?
I hope so, man. I apologize to you and all your audience, man. It's been crazy. I don't know. I have to like reset everything. But like I said, it's hard because I have 3 kids streaming at the same time in school right now, so.
No problem. We have you back on right now. I've just been kind of talking and meeting some of the people that have joined on, and we've got people from Dominican Republic. We've got people from Russia. We've got people from Canada, from South Wales. I mean, we've got people from all over the place here that have joined us. So let's go back for a second now. So here you are now. You're doing these festivals. You're starting to meet more musicians. So you were living in the New Jersey area of Weehawken. So what happened after that? Where'd you find it? How'd you end up in Florida?
Well, after that, I moved to Mexico, and I lived in Mexico for 16 years. Actually, Paquito was pretty upset about that too. He didn't like it when I told him, dude, I'm gonna move to him. He's like, you gotta be kidding me, man! Like, you just started playing with me, and you're doing stuff, And I ended up in Mexico, and somehow it was a great move too, because that's when I started getting exposed to the pop world. In that side of the business, and getting away from more of the jazz thing and moving more into the mainstream music. And actually, that's how I ended up also playing with Ricky Martin. When I moved to Mexico, I started, like everybody, I started playing locally with the different acts in jazz clubs and stuff like that. And I had, a few students, and one of my students calls me up one day, and this was shortly after I moved there. And he says, teacher, I need a really big favor. I'm like, what's up? He's like, I landed this gig. I was supposed to do this tour with this act from one of the biggest television stations here in Mexico, but I finally found a break to be a producer, which is what I really want to be a producer in an important record of this new artist that's going to come out, and they're going to like really back him up very well. They're going to put like a lot of promotion into it, and I don't want to lose the opportunity of doing that record because I have to do this tour. So I need you to cover me and do the tour for me so I can stay here in Mexico and do this production. I'm like, sure, man. I mean, got no problem with that. And shortly enough, well, what he was going to produce was the first album for Cristian Castro, which is now a huge star. And that tour that he handed over to me, which again was a one-day rehearsal, by the way, because the tour was going to start 2 days after you called me. He had already been rehearsing with the band for 3 or 4 weeks. But that's kind of my kind of destiny always for these things. So I grabbed it. I did that one rehearsal, and we went on the road. And one of the singers of this mixed band, because it was 2 bands in one. We had to accompany an act called Muñecos de Papel, which was a girl-boy band, and one of the singers was, guess who? Ricky Martin.
That's amazing.
And then we had Sarabanda, which was another band, act that came out of this same soap opera. It was a very, very successful and famous soap opera that they had done, kind of like a Mexican version of Fame, if you would say, which is young people studying arts, in an art school, singing, dancing, blah blah. So I did that tour for about 9 months, and we went all over, Central and South America, and it was really fun. And they had an amazing band, and we had a great time. And when that was over, I immediately got a call to start doing the promotion for an Argentinian singer named Laureano Brizuela, which back in the day, he was doing very, very well in Mexico and in Latin America. So I started the promotion for that, and as we did the first few TV shows, I get a call one day at home. I'm back home, and I get a call, and it was Ricky Martin calling to the house. And I was like, hey, yeah, it's Ricky Martin, man. And I was just calling you because we're sitting here at my living room at home. He used to live in Mexico, by the way, back then. And I'm about to bring out my first solo album, as a solo artist. And all the guys that I have here in the band, they all point out to you, man. They all man, we need Waldo here on this thing. And he said, and I really felt really comfortable working with you, these 9 months, man. I always felt like I had you had my back. I was very comfortable and secure, that you were back there on the drums. So, I'm calling you to see if you would be willing to play with me, man. He said, we're going to start off small. And what all I could do is I can promise you that I'm a very hard worker, and that I'm hungry. I want to go out and do all that I could do with my career. So, but I would love to, if you could be a part of this. And it's, it was so sincere. Ricky is a beautiful human being, man. It was so sincere the way he told me all this, that I was like, dude, you got a drummer, man. So right there and then I called, the manager of the other artists. I told, look, man, we're still months away from starting this tour. You're still on the promotional, part of it. This won't kill you. I'm gonna step out. I did that, and I went and met with Ricky and the band at his place that evening, and from there on, that's how that story started, man. We started, and at the beginning, it was we were doing a lot of palenques inside Mexico, but surely, like he said, he's a hard worker, extremely hard worker with a very, very, very good discipline. He's so disciplined, man. It's scary. You'll see that guy arrive before anybody and leave after everybody in a rehearsal. You know what I mean? He's insane. He's a real workaholic. And and the whole thing started growing and growing and growing and growing, and he turned into this. He was already very well known for Menudo, of course, but his solo career, just blew up into this amazing career that he still has, till today.
Absolutely.
And,
he really is a superstar at what he does. He really is a first-class, performer and writer and stuff. So tell me about now your relationship with Mapex and how you got involved with Mapex and the drums that you play and all the snare drums you have in the back. Just fill me in about that.
You caught that? Okay. Well, my relationship comes in what was that? 1994, I believe. 1994. Mapex was still very young back then. They had only been around maybe like for about 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
We just had the 30th anniversary not too long ago. So yeah, and they were distributed in Mexico by a company called Hermes Music, which is an amazing company full of amazing people, starting from the owner to everybody in there. They're beautiful people. And I had met them because Billy Cobham was coming into town to do a clinic. And somehow, I don't know why, these people and the local musician union, for some reason, they felt like I was going to be a good representation on, for the Mexican side or for the Latin side in this event, because they needed like a counterpart. Billy Cobham was coming in, and they said, no, we need to have like some local guy, in there, because that's politics, that's the way to do it. And so for some reason they chose me, which till today I really don't understand why, but it was a really amazing experience. So I go in, they did it at this really huge forum they had, there was about 3,500 people there. And Billy Cobham, he did his thing, and then I was to play with Cristobal Lopez and his band, and then do like my little clinic thing as well, to be the counterpart. And that's the very first time I played a Mapex drum set. I had never played it before, and something magic happened. It was, I had played other brands, many other brands before. And when I sat down that day and I tried out for the first time, and it was actually a Saturn kit, the very first version of Saturn kits. And when I sat down on that drum set, just something happened to me, at least, man, that was very personal. I felt, as I was tuning it up, I set up from scratch. They brought in the boxes, set up from scratch that afternoon. And as I was tuning it, I felt so identified, with that drum set. Because I had played a bunch of different drums before. And we all know, everybody, all brands make amazing drums. That's all good. But what happened to me, my personal experience, was that as I played for that, whatever hour and a half that I was preparing for, for the show that evening, I felt for the first time that I was playing a drum set that would respond to me, to my body, to my touch, to the way I felt in the moment. And it would just be different, than anything I had heard before. Because any other drum set, I'm not going to mention any brands, but I had played a lot of the great brands before. And my problem with most of them was that if I play it, you hear that drum set, it's that drum set. Okay, so that's a such and such, And if Dom sits down, okay, it's Dom, but you still hear that drum set. You know what I mean? And you can recognize that drum set, which is good. I understand that's probably good for, for a lot of sound engineers probably enjoy that, But for me, to see how I sat on the drum set and it reacted on a different way than when Billy played it, and and some of my other friends that were there from that day, they all sat down, and the drum set sounded different with each one of them. And that's what caught me. That made me fall in love, because for the first time I had played a drum set that I could actually put my personality into it. Instead of being a great drum set that that okay, you can hear my style, but no, this thing actually, the sound reacted to me, and to anybody I heard play on it. And that I fell in love. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And that evening, I was telling the guys at Hermes, man, like this thing sounds amazing. Because they told me, what do you think about it? Because we started distributing these things here for Latin America, and they're fairly new, and it's going to be hard for us to move it around because it's a new brand, and you have all the famous ones.
Yeah.
And I told him, I don't know, man, how it's going to go for you guys, but I do tell you this thing, man. I love these drums. I told him, I honestly love these drums. I really think that it's worth your while to push them and push that brand, because I know that on the long run, there's got to be a lot of people that are going to love what I felt, which is a drum set that sounds like you, and not you playing on that drum set. More like that drum set sounds like you. And they did.
Absolutely.
They took my word for it. That evening, we went for, after the clinic, we went for dinner with Mr. Daniel Yang, who you probably remember. He doesn't work anymore for Mapex, but he was there. He was very young. He was traveling with Billy Cobbin to this tour clinic, the clinic tour. And so I was sitting on one side of the table, and Billy came up to me, walked around, and he said, man, I want to talk to you. And, we talked about a couple of things. He said, I was telling Danielle that, we need someone like you and to be like the face and the sound for Mapex drums in Latin America. And he said, and Danielle totally agreed. So they wanted to know, would you like to be like their endorser here in Latin America? I'm like, you kidding me? I'm like, I would be honored. And that's how my story started with Mapex.
How beautiful. Well, it's beautiful, and like anything else, it's a beautiful love story when you think about it, because here it was, a relationship was developed, and here you are after all these years still playing the drums. I can see you've got a Saturn V back there, and you've got a whole rack of snare drums that you have here, and this is the fun of all the different sounds they produce.
Yeah, I'm surprised you with this. Check this out. Let me angle this down. I don't know if you could see this. This is actually, and I love this drum set, this is actually a Saturn III, Dom.
Incredible.
Check that out.
Incredible. What beautiful drums. We're losing you again, Waldo.
And this drum set, used it for the tour. You're losing?
Yeah, we're getting every third word.
Let me know if I'm back.
Let's try it again. Finish your comment.
Okay, I was saying this is a Saturn III, and I used this drum set for a tour called Parce Tour with Juanes. And this drum set, I ordered it with certain sizes on purpose because I was looking for a certain sound. So the drum set is 14 by 7 on rack tom number 1, 12 by 6 on the rack tom number 2. Then the floor tom is 18 by 16, and the other floor tom is a 16 by 16. And it is the very first generation of the Saturns when they started doing the hybrid wood. It's walnut.
I'm losing you here, Waldo. I believe everyone has me on here.
You got me?
You're back now, Waldo. It might be good for us to, we'll have to kind of reschedule this. We'll have to get it so we get a better connection and reschedule you in here.
I know. I'm so sorry about it. I apologize to all your beautiful people. And I'm so sorry. I feel very ashamed that this happened, man.
Don't worry about a thing, Waldo. There's so many more stories that I want to hear from you. We'll just reschedule this. We'll get some more people in the process as I don't want to, you're dropping in and out. So let's reschedule this Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. To all the Mapex followers that have been patient with us. Waldo, we're going to fine-tune your connection over there. We're going to reschedule a time to bring it back, and we'll do this again, even bigger and better. All righty. Thank you so much, Waldo.
Thank you so much,
Thank you all for joining me, too. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.